the part where we really want you guys to ask a lot of questions. So I've got some questions prepared, and then we have some questions that you all put on your surveys that we'll be sure to ask. But we want this to be interactive. So if y'all have questions as we go, just raise your hand, and Evan has a mic back there, and he'll be able to run around with the mic. But if you guys have any questions for these panelists, please ask. So we'll start with introductions. My name is Shelby Knight. I'm the Business Development Manager for SAIM. But prior to that, I was a project manager for 4 years. So I've been on site a lot of your guys' different facilities. I graduated from the University of Kansas with a degree in mechanical engineering. We had to come up with a fun fact, which I hate fun facts, but this fun fact, I can name all the starting quarterbacks of the 2024 NFL season, but really I just love sports. So we have season tickets to the Chiefs. This was more fun than saying I like sports. So big football fan and just sports in general. Enough about me though, let's do some panel introductions. So we'll go down the line and everyone just say your name and what facility you're from, and then we've got a little icebreaker question. So if your facility had a theme song, what would it be? So just answer that with your introduction.
I guess it would just be Whatever It Takes by Imagine Dragons.
Good one.
We have a lot of unpredictable things that happen every day, and we just do whatever it takes to get it done.
And what's your name and your facility?
My name is Mark Morris. I am the operations manager at DFW Tank Farm.
And then we also had Sean. Sean's battling a little bit of a cough, so he's in the audience down there, but he was also supposed to be on our panel from DFW.
My name is Harris. I'm the general manager in Seattle with FSM. Probably Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses.
There you go.
That's what comes to mind.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Keaton?
I'm also from Seattle, operations supervisor for SeaTac Airport. And I would have to say, cannot remember the group to save my life, but this is how we do it.
Jonathan Way, the fuels facility manager for Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. And if I had to pick, probably I Will Survive. You know. It is it's a lot of change to keep going.
Perfect. All right, so like I said, we'll get started with just some questions, but we want this to kind of be a conversation, less of just these guys talking. So everyone up here has had SAIM for over a year. I think Seattle was 2021 deployment, maybe 22. Yes, 21. So they've probably had it the longest. And then DFW and Phoenix were deployed right around the same time, a couple years ago. So they've all had SAIM, they've implemented SAIM. So if you guys have any questions about best practices, and like I said, we've got some targeted questions to start, but if you think of something that we haven't asked, please speak up. So we'll start with, we're gonna start off with kind of delegation. So task delegation and system management. So what types of tasks does the general manager handle versus an ops manager or lead within SAIM at your facilities?
I'll start. So on the very beginning when we took SAIM on, I as a general manager did a little bit of everything, right? You have to set it up, everyone is involved. The biggest issue is, can you trust the platform? You're used to your paper binders. You know, the staff has been doing everything with pen and paper for years and years, and the worry was, if I get rid of my paper binders, will the platform just go away? So when we first started doing it, you know, we used to print the paperwork, then we saved it somewhere else. In any event, fast forward a few years, I as a general manager right now, honestly just oversee it, log in to make sure that my tasks are completed. As far as the operations manager and supervisors, they just update any changes. You know, if you added the additional pit or, you know, something changes, they'll add it. And the rest of it, it's kind of like set it and forget it. You know, you set up the system the way you want it to work. In our case, we had our tasks divided by shifts. Each shift had their responsibility. So when we took on SAIM, we applied the same responsibilities to every shift. And when the guys come in, they just select their shift and perform their tasks as they otherwise would have in the past. It saves us on the delegation. It automatically does it, and we just oversee it.
Perfect. Anybody else want to answer that question? Moving on.
Well, as a facility manager at Phoenix, I think a lot of the things that I've and the team and I have been working on is taking their feedback and working with our partners at SAIM to try and make it, station specific for the tasks that we do. We're a little bit unique in the fact that we're more DOT regulated from other facilities, so appeasing some of the auditor gods that maybe could come along with that. So.
Perfect. And then I know you guys work closely with the maintenance module, but have you found that there are certain features or modules within SAIM that are better suited for specific roles? And if so, which ones and why?
I think I'll just kind of talk about the newest one, the as-needed tasks. So at our facility, there are a lot of things that we aren't able to maintain how it was previously, how you had to make it a one-day inspection. You can't do like an hourly inspection. So whenever they implemented the as-needed tasks, we were able to record like our rainwater on a daily basis, things that we normally don't record or we can't record, like pump temps. We even have our truck inspections on SAIM as well. So we went completely paperless in that aspect as well. And that's just one of the modules that I personally like the most. It's completely customizable. You can make it to anything that you want. Your questions can be anything you want. You can also pull reports from the dashboard to see what type of answers or how that inspection went, and then just kind of see what all the operators or the supervisors are doing on a day-to-day basis.
Perfect. And then what strategies have you implemented to train and onboard new team members in SAIM without overwhelming them?
Well, for us, we have them do the level 1 SAIM training. Other than that, it's the on-the-job training is no different than before SAIM, honestly. Before SAIM, you would show them where the binders are, how to do the checks, and how to document them. Right now, it's just being done on a much more efficient platform. It's no different than in the past. Some of you may remember, I used to balance my checkbook and write checks to pay bills. Now I just go on a platform and I just pay my bills. So, we don't overwhelm them. We train them for 3 to 4 weeks, but after the SAIM 1 training, it's mostly hands-on.
That was actually one of the audience questions in the surveys. If you've had your operators go through the SAIM certification, can you tell us the effect it had on your station? Did your operators have more confidence? Did they better understand SAIM? And did they start using the website version in addition to the handheld? So that's a pretty packed question, but somebody in the audience wanted to know the effect the certification had.
Sure. So yes and yes. For the thing that motivated me was SAIM said, we would get a little discount if all of my staff would do the training. So that's how they motivated me. But we ended up printing all their certificates and hanging them in a hallway, just to demonstrate the importance of it and have them have some sense of pride that they had completed it and letting everybody know that they're capable. But it definitely has made them better. They are on the platform. They're more on the platform, more involved, and having that training has made them more efficient.
Perfect. What advice would you give to other facilities looking to better delegate SAIM-related tasks among their team?
I mean, if you already delegate it per shift, then that's the way to go, obviously. We found that it's better to just set everything that you do have yearly, weekly, monthly, daily with no end date. If anything does change, put it out of service, decommission it, and go from there. But the platform makes delegation super easy. Every shift just filters out their own shift, and full completion.
And just to add to that, in our case, we have 3 shifts, and each shift sends us an email debriefing their shift, and they take a screenshot of the SAIM screen and they email that to us, and they know that they have to have a really good explanation or they just stay a little late in order to accomplish every task. But you also have to know when your day ends. With us, our 24-hour day in Seattle ends at 9 p.m. simply because graveyard comes in at 9, so it's not midnight. So even though all shifts look at it, our second shift right before 9 p.m., they know that they're the last line of defense and that all the checks have to be done and documented before that day closes.
Mark or Jonathan, can you speak to any delegation within your facilities?
Yeah, for Phoenix, big challenges is always finding people that want to have the passion to find a new platform to work, and then always people that are resistant to that type of change. Throwing it together, pairing them up was always a good way that we were able to do it. Having some of the more passionate people work with our weaker technology-based people, and keeping them on track and showing them the ropes, many, many, many times, and it worked out.
Okay, before we move on from this section, does anyone in the audience have any questions related to delegation or system management within these facilities? Okay. Then we will move on to.
Otis does.
Oh, Otis has one, Evan.
Who's primarily responsible for entering your work orders? Who's primarily responsible for entering your work orders? Is your operators, your mechanics, management?
So yeah, it's pretty much a group effort. Everyone can generate a work order. This way, it gives great visibility for any abnormal tracking. The larger ticket items, we do like an email blast of if there was a system out of service or if there was a hazardous condition, something like that. Lockout, tagouts, those type of things are tracked a little bit more closely. But generally, for small fixes like changing missing dust caps, maybe a loose valve or something like that, a replacement, pit head replacements. It just depends on who recognizes it first, but empowering the team to, use that for our utility operators to mechanics to operators, and then management as well. When we see something, we just call it up and then they take care of it.
And Otis, just to add to that, very similar in our case, whoever finds the issue, I would say, whether it's an operator or a lead or whomever, they would generate the work order, and then our maintenance team, when they do come in, they work day shift. They would open the work orders and, perform the work, or, reach out to our supervisors, managers, or myself, and ask us to get the parts. And then, if you have a consistent issue with the same, for example, missing dust cap over and over on the same gate, then maybe, you find out who the vendor is, what their line is. Sometimes even, ask the port to give you some video footage, because you get tired of replacing the same thing over and over again.
Good question. Any other audience questions?
Somebody mentioned auditor gods or audit gods. So you've had experience, obviously, with different folks coming in and auditing, and they're used to paper, and now you've got a system. How do you convince them that the system is correct and accurate and timely versus computer-generated?
Good question. Generally, they ask us to still print it out, so they can go through the logs, but the timestamp and then showing them how it actually works. So we're blessed with a week or 2 week long audit with some regulators, and when we first take the system, we go out there and we scan it, we show them how it actually updates, and it's tagged in with that person's user and logon. So we just walk them through the whole process, and then they have more faith in that, and then it's also a process to get them to accept that new way of doing it. So we had to pass over a whole operation and maintenance manual type of thing so they can give it the blessing as well. So that's how we got through it.
And Tom, similar with us, what we do when we get an auditor in, one of the first questions is, have you seen the same platform? Do you know what it is? If they do, great. If they don't, I find it very beneficial to give them a 5-minute breakdown of what it is, how it works. And once they find out that, hey, you physically have to be there to scan this hydrant, they seem to like that, and it works pretty well. We haven't really had any issues.
All right, good questions. So moving on kind of to more general user experience and best practices. Can you share a specific example where SAIM has helped streamline a critical process at your site?
So the obvious answer is your daily tasks. Some facilities have hundreds of things to do a day, and if you're like before SAIM, you're on paper still, that's a lot of time taken out that your operators could be using to do other things, to conduct other business. And to that end, how do you know that it's actually getting done if it's on paper. So SAIM does not allow for that. They have to physically be there, as they just mentioned. You know that it got done. You know they had to be there to scan it. Eradicates the use for paperwork, so now you have more time to have them go around, check other things, do perimeter checks, clean up around the yard, any other tasks that would normally not be gotten to until maybe later in the week, later in the month.
Yeah, and one of the things I appreciate the most is consistency. The tasks are uploaded, they're there. It's hard to miss anything, and to be very transparent, sometimes our operators will come down thinking they're done, and they'll say, "Oh my God, I either didn't scan this correctly or I missed this." So now they have to go back and do it. So I do like consistency, and then it really helps with complacency, which is really scary. Sometimes we, for example, have 400 plus tasks a day, and you're out there checking volts or whatever you will, pumps, and you may think that you looked at that pump, but you looked at a different pump, and next there's an issue and you have an oil leak or whatever the case. So it's hard to get complacent when you have to go to the physical asset and look at and scan it.
How do you guys use reporting and analytics within SAIM to make operational decisions?
Sorry, Shelby, one question.
Oh, sorry, we have an audience question.
Yeah, at IAD, we usually have a daily inspection of our input in the paperwork. How do you guys check that on SAIM in case somebody probably introduce an input that can raise a concern, like a dirty tank, or how do you check that?
So that's a great question. The best answer for that is after the tasks have been closed out, under your planning module, you can go in and select just those closed tasks. And when you scroll over, it's going to show comments. Your operators are supposed to put in comments or images of things that are broken or missing. Why was this the way it is? So if you don't happen to be there, but you're checking on them from, let's say, the conference, you can see right now, oh, okay, so this thing needs to get done. Oh, hey, look, they're already working on it. Or this is an issue and it looks like it's been reported by 3 different people across the entire day. So I need to go out there and check it myself. Oh, for checking it? So checking it would be myself at my facility. Harris is our overseer, but I'm in charge of going through everything, digging through everything, making sure that everything's done correctly, checking comments, pictures, closed tasks, overdue tasks.
So that's a good question from a delegation standpoint of, do you live more on the dashboard and then he dives deeper into the tasks to see those comments?
That's correct. But, I would say if what you do right now, works for you before SAIM, I would say continue doing the same thing. SAIM doesn't have the answer for everything. It documents everything, but by no chance does it give you excuse not to report a safety hazard or a symptom to a future problem. So it's just a documenting platform. I mean, if you have an issue, obviously you do a work order, but if it's a significant enough where it's a fuel quality issue or safety issue, sure, do the work order, but go to whoever is the next in your chain of command and elevate it to take care of it.
Good question. Okay. So how do you use reporting or analytics within SAIM to make operational decisions? So whether that's the dashboard, quick view.
Well, when I look at the dashboard, for instance, I'll see all these tasks completed. Last month, whatever, 12,500 or 800 tasks it was. Then, I look at how many of those were overridden, and then I look at why were they overridden. And one feedback, to SAIM is if I override a task right now, it's optional for me to leave a note. I think it should be required. You cannot just override something and close it off, and it still shows that you're 100%. So I go, through the dashboard and I look at, so why didn't you inspect this? Because it's out of service, or because there was construction in the area, or whatever the case. So there's just one example on how I use the platform.
Yeah, for Phoenix, it's kind of there's a lot of data that you can sift through, finding the ones that are important to you. Of course, it's going to be something life safety. Rotating equipment is definitely a part of some of the engineering modules that we can kind of track. But then really, it opens up the transparency between the chairs, the airlines, and our engineering teams as well to get more eyes on it, because you only see what you see. Like earlier the guy said, blind spots. Everything is more eyes on it. People are willing to speak about certain things. Get engineers involved. Everyone has a great opinion, and it really opens up that transparency of analytics. And then you get that feedback, and then you just try to make sure you don't miss those things again.
Jonathan, just one thing about your facility. Among all facilities, you grant more access to outside users than anyone else. Can you explain that efficiency for you?
Yeah, so for limited time of access, we do lock it up. But for the photos and measurements parts, definitely it's a great tool to prevent contractors and to get more bids in there, trying to keep it competitive and make sure we get the best service as well. Another thing is like you said, having that access, getting those subject matter experts, to assign them tasks to sign off on certain things. And that could be anything from, contract renewals and reviews, certificates of insurance, follow-ups, those annual things that we need to, can get kind of lost in the weeds. It's a great tool for adding those things to tracking, not just about, facility health, but, sharing the liability and giving the warm fuzzies to the airlines for paying for this. And, they have access to all of that, so.
I'm curious, specific to Seattle. You guys at the beginning kind of struggled a little bit of getting all the stuff done, to be candid, but now you're at 100% completion rate. So can you speak to kind of the process of how you got everybody on board with SAIM and how you kind of pushed it to get to that 100%?
Okay. Honestly, I'm very competitive in nature. And my first SAIM conference was last year. And the first couple years, we didn't really think that we had to do it. Staff was complaining, this will never work. I want my paper binders, X, Y, Z. The tags would fall off, and issue after issue. And then I came here last year, and it was a bit embarrassing. I'm like, that there's folks sitting there on that podium, and they're 100%. I'm like, if they can do it, then let me talk to them. Let me see how they're getting it done. So hopefully next year we can be 100% compliant as well. So we went back after last year's conference. I immediately had a staff meeting with all of my staff and said, it's not optional. This is the way forward, period, end of story. I'm giving you 30 days to figure this out. And after that, I don't want to see any more paper. Everything is to be documented in SAIM, end of story. I had to eat some of those words because I spent long days of work. So did my salary team, making sure that every task was accomplished. So it's not easy. Anytime you transition into anything different, it's not easy. However, very much worth the effort, because it is easier down the road. So that's how we got there.
Does anyone in the audience struggling with maybe user adoption have any questions specific to that for anyone up here? Yep. He's running the mic over.
Yeah, I'm from Houston IH. We've never been introduced to SAIM, and a little bit lost. Not just a little bit, I'm totally lost here as to starting this up.
You're from IH, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're
And
not
we're
deployed yet.
pretty much about to roll that out soon. And my colleague and I here, we're trying to figure out the best foot forward, the best way forward with this. How do we go ahead and start?
Good question. So
Because
IH
I'm
is
hearing
not
a lot
deployed yet.
of stuff about using, and I'm not too familiar with it at all. So that's the question I'm having.
I was just as lost, not too long ago, honestly. But SAIM does have a great team. And, I would reach out to either Evan, Shelby, or whomever, is assigned to help you out. Maybe start small, start with just a few tags, and do those for a few days and do the same training. Normally SAIM, if I remember correctly, you guys came out when we first deployed our station, and they'll give you the training.
So have you guys developed more of a site-specific training, or are you fully relying on the same level 1 training that we provided to you?
We did the level 1 training after we were 100% compliant. So the way I look at SAIM, is just a different way of documenting our work. We just had to spend a lot of time on the phone, in person with SAIM, getting it done. And, we did this level 1 training kind of as a cherry on top afterwards, but we did not rely just on the SAIM training.
Okay. Is there anything on the dashboard that you guys would like to see added in there on the SAIM dashboard? When you pull it up, break down things like that you would like to see added in the future?
Sure. So going back to the comments, right now, even if you do make comments, you click on for example, if you override a tag, let's say, you can see it's overwritten, you can see what was overwritten, you scroll to the right and there's no comments. Now you have to go elsewhere to look for the comments. So, having the comments right there, would be great. The other part is all the documents that we're having to download before we take a look at them. On one hand, it's great to have them there, and I'm not complaining. It's really never fun when you're looking for a binder and you can't find it because somebody else was inspecting it. So I'm happy to have everything on the platform. I just wish that uploading and opening up those was just a little quicker.
Question. I do want to mention, Stephanie's going to touch on this in the next session, but we do have a custom reporting module coming out this year. So you will be able to build all those dashboards customizable to each facility. So she'll touch on that a lot more in the next session. This could open a can of worms, but I see Stephanie over there scribbling notes. She's our business analyst. So what improvements or additional features would you like to see in future SAIM updates? And audience can get involved in this as well. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Here we go, just a minute.
Good morning, all. Just a quick question as far as reporting. I've noticed, so I've even reached out to Harris in regards to the millipore testing and the results. So auditors refuse, or I've heard that they will refuse a digital scan of the results because they can be tampered with. So is there anything down the pipeline coming up for us to kind of be able to use that feature on SAIM and have the auditors accept it?
We've talked about this. We were actually deploying Charlotte a month or so ago, and we did talk about that quite a bit. Not right now. We're kind of still preliminary research of is there some sort of camera that would be able to detect the color well enough that an auditor would be able to accept it. Nothing as of now, but we're in discussions about it. But.
And on a side note, for the gentleman over at IAH, I know you guys have not deployed the system yet, but this meeting as a whole is a stepping stone. So the same way I can reach out to Harris, anybody that you know or intermingle with, just ask. We're a team. We may be in different airports, different companies, but we're all here for the same purpose of safely getting people from the one destination to the other and back home safely. So at the end of the day, is our common purpose is to function appropriately, safely, and just do things the right way with integrity. All right? That's my bid.
Yeah, one thing I have, it's not must-have, but I think it'd be really cool. I think it'd be awesome if there was a SAIM app in the App Store, so you can actually download that on your phone.
For
I
iPhones?
think that'd be pretty neat.
That's in the works. Apple, yeah.
Awesome.
I have a bunch, but
He's like, I'll talk to Stephanie later.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones is kind of making a work order process a lot easier. Right now, it's still within the same, like when you pull up a tag or an asset, your work order button's right there. But if I were to like make a comment or, saying like, hey, this is, my first reading was unsat, it should automatically create a work order, which I'm pretty sure that's being implemented as well. But I got a lot of things that the operators, they tell me. So, and the work order system is big on that. We see issues every single day. We repair them every single day. So for us to go in, go out, go in, go out, to streamline the work order process would be really great.
Shelby, can I address that really quick? I think that type of feedback on the screen, just so you guys can, really critical in this conference because we are getting ready to invest a significant dollar amount in the user experience of the app. So how does it walk you through so you can do your job much easier without having to think and go in and go out, right? What's the process of your work? So we're starting that endeavor here literally the 14th of April. So those types of pieces of feedback, some may require development. That's where Stephanie comes in as the analyst, right? But some may be accomplished just through that new user experience.
The other thing I do want to add, the on-demand task, as good as it is, it doesn't always work for us. I almost wish we could have like a log. For example, when we receive fuel, I ask my staff to scan the same tag on top of the tank as they do the oil level. When they strap the tank and they can put in temperature, API, gravity, feet, inches, whatever the case. When you create an on-demand task, if you don't do it that day, then it expires and it looks like as you are not 100% compliant. And often the fuel receipts are late. So you make this task and the fuel receipt isn't finished. So having some kind of log, just so we can log everything due, whether you're stripping a tank and you don't do it every day. You just want to put a tag on the stripper pump and your staff logs down that they were there every 10 minutes inspecting it or whatever the case, I think would be neat.
Stephanie, you look confused. So like an as-needed task that lasts longer than a day.
Than a day.
It's not maybe due on that day.
Maybe like removing the time limit on it.
Yeah. So I think it's just add your time. It's needed.
Yeah, so we really struggle with getting our daily hydrant inspections done, but also we have 400 plus hydrants that need to be checked out every day. So I'm wondering, how do you like set up your teams or arrange your teams to get that 100% done? And also, how are you attaching the tags to the pits?
It's a good question for this crew because all of these facilities have large hydrant systems.
Yes, so we have, give or take, 300 plus as well. So previous to SAIM, again, we divided our pits throughout 3 different shifts, morning shift, second shift, and graveyard. Each one responsible for inspecting, their pits. So when we first started putting the tags on, great question, they kept falling off, and eventually we ended up drilling a hole and just tagging the buttons onto the pit lid. That worked. We don't have any one of them falling out. And every shift is still maintaining the same pit lids. They're just having to, all along they had to open them up, but now they'll mix them up, and we're 100% confident that they are opening up the pit and that they're scanning it.
I know one of the other things we do is, especially on shifts that have more people, like day shift, I highly encourage our guys, like, hey, take 2 of you out there. Have one work on one section, have the other one work on the other section, stay in contact. It gets done a lot quicker that way. Because instead of just waiting for one, mark down pits that need attention, obviously. When you guys meet up, you can go back to them, vacuum them out, clean them up. But at least that way, you don't have guys out there their entire shift trying to get, like you said, over 400 hydrant pits done or something like that. And you also don't wear out a guy burning them out on one person just checking every single one, and eventually they're going to be like, oh, why do I care to actually give it a good look? I already still have 200 more to check. So having 2 people, encouraging 2 people to do it, kind of split the work per shift, has been beneficial for us.
So Seattle splits it.
One thing, just to add to that, we in Charlotte, we have a specific position that almost exclusively does pits on 3rd shift when the airport shuts down. And so I would recommend that you at least look at maybe something like that, because that position then serves as kind of a feeder into our other positions. So you can kind of grow your bench, or have your bench strength be based on coming in and just performing a very simple task of doing the pits overnight, and then you can grow the people that stick out in operators and mechanics.
Sure. In our case, every operator is trained how to replace pilot valves, even hydrants. And, when you look at their schedule, it'll say on the schedule that they're doing pits. So, they may do pits 2 or 3 times a week on their shift. So it works out pretty good.
That was going to be my next leadway is at DFW or Phoenix. Do you also split the pits among the 3 shifts, or do you have one shift do all your pits?
We normally have the night shift pretty stacked. So whenever the airport's not really moving around, we'll have the night guys at least knock down the main terminals. That way during the day, they're not, bobbing in and out of the planes. And that way we just mostly have freight that's left throughout the day. Freight's a lot easier. They don't really move as much as the main terminals do. And, all of them, like all our guys, they know how to do everything, all the maintenance on it, how to replace the SAIM tag, dust cover, and all that stuff as well.
Mark, sorry about that. Add on to you use location more than anyone else in the system. What did you do for like a big system? Because Daniel's from ORD. What did you do with locations to make it easier for your guys?
So I guess when you guys got done deploying our station, our tablets wouldn't load. We just had too much stuff. And I think the main reason why it wouldn't load is because there's just too much stuff to download. So I started separating every terminal by terminal. So I think we have A, B, C, D, E, and then 3 freight. And then we also have our low points, vaults, high points. Like everything is completely separate. That way, if our guy is going to go and do one task like A terminal, they just download A terminal and it downloads that task list ASAP.
And San Francisco splits theirs up by location as well. So you can kind of customize it if you want to split them up by shift and divide them up by those, or split them up by location, or both. But when they say download, they're talking about the filters on the handheld device. So when an operator logs in, they just want to see A terminal, they can filter by A terminal and then just go out and do those pits.
Yeah, we use that too.
Yeah, yours are location, yep.
Yeah, we have location and shifts. So tank farm is mostly just shift work, your first shift, second shift, third shift. But on the ramp side, it's all terminals by location.
Good question. I think George had a question.
So in Philadelphia, what challenges us the most is knowing that the guys are out there in the farm, in the facility, multiple times throughout the shift. And so a functionality of SAIM that would be helpful for us would be maybe making tasks time specific. So instead of first shift, let's say 7 to 3 o'clock, you cannot perform these tasks until noon. They don't become active until noon. It would help us guarantee that we have somebody out in the farm the latter part of the shift, rather than everybody coming in, taking the handhelds out, and just doing all their tasks within the first 2 hours of the shift, which is great. The tasks are complete, but no one's putting eyes on the process later in the shift, just to make sure that we have eyes on the process.
So frequency less than daily, essentially.
So we have a couple on-time tasks. So we have 3 pump temps that we have to do, one at 10, one at 3, and then one at 7. So I created those specifically for that time, and to also back up that point, we can also go look back and see whenever that task was completed and what they put in there as well.
Also, you can also download Live 360 onto the same device, so that they can track your employees for safety reasons. Really, if you can't reach them and you wonder where your employee and your truck is at, you can always see on Live 360.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it from a standpoint of, having these constant negative interactions, disciplining people all the time. This would take that discipline piece out of it, because it's like, you can't do that task until this time. So it would help with the flow sometimes.
Sure.
Good question. Nate?
So one of the things that we've talked about, but I'm bringing up to hopefully gain some traction on, because obviously that prioritizes things, but From an operational standpoint, one of the things that we've talked about that I think is coming is sequential task. But if you think about that from the operational perspective, it would, you'd have to do them as needed task. But you can do essentially kind of a dual verification process for all movements by having sequential tasks. And then based on where you're receiving on the line system or the tank, there's a series of valves that go along with that. And so by essentially being able to say, hey, we're receiving this pipeline through this filter bank into this tank or issuing out, that would trigger a certain set of asset tags to be scanned, which basically does the dual verification for you. And then in theory, there's no way that somebody can mess that up or be provable if they did, right? So
essentially walking the operator through the process, and they have to go one valve, then the next. They can't go out of order. Back there. Go ahead.
I was going to say one idea that I can't remember who I heard it from, but a notification. So if a task is 2 hours away from being overdue, if a new work order is put in, if something's overridden, some way maybe management could get notifications pushed to their phone. Maybe, obviously, there's the app, but via text, via email, something like that. So we're made aware, like, oh, this is an issue right now. Let's go and address it right now.
And that's actually going to be part of our reporting module coming out as well. You'll be able to build your own notifications. So hopefully that solves your issue. I think in the back, they had a question.
Yeah, so 1%. Right now we're using for our daily inspections, we're using a handheld that has a laser and a barcode. This is used to prevent, we had that to prevent operator to bend a lot to tap. Like right now, they're gonna have to bend and tap every time. Is it a possibility to have something different that can prevent them to bend that much a day because they have a lot of pits to inspect on a daily basis?
As opposed to an NFC tag, you're saying? So
Yeah,
you don't have
I mean,
to bend down?
with SAIM, you need to actually touch or
Yeah, you do have to get pretty close so that it can read the chip in the NFC tag. We haven't looked into anything else. We found that NFC tags are the most effective of ensuring that the operator is at that piece of equipment, scanning that tag, because barcodes you can take back to the ops building. So it's the way we found to hold the most accountability. But if you have any other ideas, we could definitely look into them.
So what we did, most of our operators used to be fuelers. So we provide them with knee pads and we train them to go down on one knee, in order to open the fuel pit. You don't want them to bend over and open the fuel pit. It's probably worse than scanning the tag. So they go down on one knee, open that fuel pit, and then they scan it. So that's how we go about it.
And we do try to tag it in the most logical location when we're on site, but if there's a better location to tag a piece of equipment, y'all are definitely free to move that tag. It takes like a couple seconds to reassign. So, and we'll try to work with you on site when we do the deployment. Is this the best place to tag it for the everyday walk around for that operator? So we'll try to take an operator with us when we're doing those tags so that we're not putting them in obscure locations.
Another question that was for you. We have, when we do high and low points, we usually have double signatures. So how do you guys manage to have both signatures on your paperwork with SAIM?
It's never come up, no? That's a new question.
So for us, it's Phoenix, we generally put it into a custom question, and then we had the comment of the extra person added in there for right now. But to have double signatures, I know it's been brought up before, so we are discussing how to make that work. But you can also do a SME type of way of doing it as well, so they can verify that it was done correctly as that second eyes. There's some ways you can use SAIM to do that. So there has to be like a SME review. It's a check down box. You could add that task to every task. So.
Good question.
We have one more over here. Go ahead.
Yes, I want to speak to the guy from Seattle over there. And when they skip a task or override a task and having a comment, I'm an auditor for an airline, it's more, I'll accept it more if there's a comment than if there's just nothing there. You know, if I keep seeing these with nothing there, then I'm gonna write a car, because but explaining them away goes a long way as to why something wasn't done.
Absolutely.
Yes. And is there an audit module for auditors, or even for you guys to audit your records? Because when I'm on site, it's time consuming to go through and pull up the weeklies and then the monthlies and then, and especially the guy was commenting about the documents, like if you want to see a cert for something, it takes a while to pull all of that up.
So that kind of goes back to my previous comment. As much as I like everything being on the platform, it takes quite a bit of time uploading the documents. It really does. One thing that we try to do is if we know that we have an audit that's upcoming, we download them and save them previous to the auditor showing up. Sometimes we could just even email it to the auditor, perhaps. So, if you were auditing our station and would provide us with a checklist, then we would just upload everything prior to your arrival.
Stephanie.
When you talk about documents, are you talking about ATA forms or documents in the document management section?
Documents, ATA forms perhaps as well,
ATA
but
forms,
yeah.
the download?
Mm-hmm.
I think we found a way to fix that. And I'll show it at the reporting presentation.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
So now, and I've heard several times, comments mandatory when we override a task. So can I just, because that's such an easy win for us, you guys. So can I just get a show of hands? How many people would want that? Okay, that's good. All right, thanks.
All right. George, I think
Yeah,
you had a
just
question?
to follow up on the whole NFC tag and getting the handheld close to that, right? Has anyone ever looked into like having a Bluetooth like reader, NFC reader, separate from the handheld, so that you can hold the handheld here and have that widget go over to the tag? So because sometimes you can have it on a tablet, you can have it on a large phone. Sometimes
The water and the cold,
tags
it's a
aren't
terrible
laid down
combo.
really well. So at the end of the day, is there a technology out there to have a widget that's Bluetooth into the phone that can access those areas a little bit better than just having a phone,
Right.
having it strapped to your wrist, and oh crap, I couldn't get it, it fell, it's dangling from my hand now.
I don't think we've done any research on that. I'm looking over at Trey because he would be the person that would know. Yeah, we haven't looked into it, but it's possible.
Well, I'm just thinking out loud. I mean, if we have a selfie stick to take pictures, maybe there's something similar to that out there, right? Where, it brings the phone closer to a tag, yeah.
I'm thinking with the pit, though, they're already leaning down to open it. So hypothetically, they're already down there to scan. So we try to put it right there, but...
On that matter, again, to prevent them from bending, we have hooks. They use the hook to open it.
They use the hook to open
And
it.
then
Okay.
they use the laser to scan
I see what you're saying.
barcode.
We could look into that.
Thank you.
I think Otis had a question over here. Good questions. Evan's getting his steps in.
What about the idea of being able to generate more tasks or interfacing with SAIM from the digital twin more? Because a lot of times I'm sitting in my office, we're doing, I don't know, a pump breaks down or whatever, and I'm looking at the digital twin. I want to right click on the motor and create a work order, or I just want to take an invoice after it's finished and just drag it and drop it on the motor. Just kind of like a usual, like if it was Apple or Google, No offense. But just kind of, because most of us, we get so used to it now daily working just from graphics, just dragging and dropping. And sometimes to have to do all of this, wow, it's a lot.
So specifically, you're saying you want to live in the digital twin.
Yes.
And you can do most everything in the digital twin, but he wants to be able to add a work order. That's the one
Yeah,
example.
create a work order, drop documents in.
Drop a document in the digital twin.
Activate, turn it off, populate all those other fields we talked about yesterday with,
Okay.
The specs. Just do it all out of that page
can-
instead of jumping all over the platform.
Yeah,
to
you
try
can
to
populate all the
do
specs
things.
in the digital twin. So you
Okay.
can populate all that for an asset. You can look at maintenance. You can't add a work order. So that's a good feature request, adding a work order in digital twin. and adding documents straight into digital twin, dragging and dropping a document into
I
digital
mean,
twin.
everything you can do all over SAIM, you can do it all out of the digital.
All out of the digital twin.
twin.
Okay. So Otis wants to live in the digital twin. Okay, that's good feedback. All right, so we've got about 5 minutes left. And really the last section was audience participation. So we can just keep going with some more audience questions for the last 5 minutes before we wrap up. And then we'll send you guys off for lunch. David?
Is the idea?
Not lunch yet, just kidding. Sorry. Sorry.
Has the idea been brought up of making the dashboard or the facility quick view available outside the SAIM, so you can have it like a remote display somewhere? Switchboard uses a system called Yodeck, which is, we push corporate propaganda on it, other variety of things. And so just being able to have your dashboard items like overdue tasks, upcoming tasks, or inspections, just at a quick glance without having to go into, say, either the handheld or the web application. Is that like crossing a weird cybersecurity?
It would be an integration with that.
Yeah, or integrating, like maybe some API, just to let it go out there.
Yeah, talk to Stephanie about that. We can probably do it. Notifications, would that also solve that if they just get sent straight to your email?
It could be like one of the tools, yeah.
Okay.
Just because we have this, big TV in the hallway, just somebody just
Right.
by glancing, they can see at a glance, like, oh, we have all this stuff coming up.
Okay.
Rather than, I don't want to nanny the team, and so having just one little tool to prevent me from doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Talk to Stephanie about that, because that would be an integration, but.
The answer is we have an open API, so we can either integrate directly or your IT team can open what we call an iframe. It's just almost like you go to the data, but it's a technical
Conversation, so that's why she's saying Stephanie.
May I ask a question? Jonathan brought it up. You always bring up good points. You mentioned about getting with engineers. How often do you get with the engineers to review the status? Is it a monthly, quarterly? Could I get that from all three locations?
So for Phoenix, we review with Evan and Burns McDonald and the chair pretty much monthly. Chair's hit or miss, but definitely we're there and we're working through at that. Looking at any trends that are abnormal because they have more vision on different facilities. Like one of the issues that come up is just our operational procedures of maximum tank levels, and we had more high levels than most facilities, but that's just the way we were set up to operate. So just adjusting some of those parameters eliminated that like red flag, So.
Anyone else?
So with us, as admin user, I think it's admin user, I'm able to see on who logs into my SAIM systems. I know, for example, Spencer from Alaska there, he logs in and looks at our system and whatnot. So that sparks a conversation with Mark Sleda, my chair. So I know he's looking at it. And then my leadership is constantly in communication either with Evan or Shelby or somebody from within SAIM. I'm not sure if there's a timeline, but as needed, probably weekly, if not that bi-weekly.
So I think it's more from the engineering oversight. The point is that you're seeing trends, or you have questions about performance. The idea was to have at least quarterly, maybe monthly meetings with the engineers to just go over and for them to review the status of things, and was curious how that works. So you helped me in that respect. And how about Dallas?
We have an on-site engineer, so it's every day.
Good question. Okay, I'm going to go through a few that we got from the surveys as well, because I want to make sure we touch those. We kind of touched on the how do you get buy-in from your operators to use SAIM. Phoenix or Dallas, do you have any more feedback on that?
Sorry, what was the question?
How did you get buy-in from your operators to use SAIM? Probably more so at the beginning, but.
Just constant training. I would be boots on ground with them, just kind of showing them the day-to-day things. The handhelds are pretty easy to learn, but teaching, so at our facility, supervisors and up are only on the back end. But that part, it may seem really complicated. It is at first, I'm not gonna lie. It's a lot of things. You have so much power at your hands. But once you kind of get the layout of how to create your task or how to create your asset, how to attach a planned maintenance to it, and then make it live in 3 hours. I mean, once you get that basic down, it's fairly simple. And I always create like little how-to documents and emails for my team. So whenever they don't know, hey, check out that document. If that document still doesn't make any sense to you, let me know and I'll just kind of walk you through it.
Other than ATA, what other regulatory checks are you using SAIM for?
SB001 inspections.
Yeah, so on that part, we use it for environmental compliance, tier 2 reporting. It's even things that just the airlines and, good safe practices that they want us to ensure. The lawyers generally make sure we keep our vendors vetted. We pass that through engineering reviews as well. Try to make sure that their certifications are up to date. Anything that could expire, you set that tag to. It's a large undertaking. I think Evan and I went through and made a list of, about 100 of them for instrumentation, contracts, follow-ups, maintenance plans on that sort. It's a large undertaking, and just getting it in there, and even if it shows up overdue, it's always a reminder of, hey, we're going to knock out this task, of where any gaps of instrumentation or environmental concerns. At least if it's in there, you're aware of it, and it's a way to upload and real quick to have an extra SME person to double check that it was done too. So it's not just one person, one point of failure.
Okay, last one. Tips or tricks for overcoming resistance. So a number of this person's experienced staff are not using it. In Craig Weber's words, how do we, as a leader, make SAIM safe and comfortable?
I would say, some of us need more training than others, and some of us need private sessions. You never want to train somebody in public 3 or 4 times and downgrade them and embarrass them. Sometimes you have to pull whatever individual that is struggling, into your office, treat them kindly, and show them maybe a bit slower and have them repeat the task over and over again. Sometimes some of your most dependable employees are the ones that take the longest to train. So what you put in is what you get back. So I would just say be patient. If they're trying, then I wouldn't give up on anybody. If they're being resistant, as in I'm not doing this, then maybe help them get a better opportunity elsewhere.
Tough love. All right. Any last minute audience questions? If not, you can always grab these guys later. Ask them anything you want. Up front.
Overall, it sounds like a lot of time is spent in SAIM. The intent is, not just trackability, making sure stuff's done. It's to streamline the process. We want our operators out there repairing stuff, not spending an hour on the computer, which sounds like that's kind of a problem. I don't know. I don't have it in any of my locations yet. So it's not cheap, but I hear it's as good as the operator using it. But honestly, I'm looking for your honest feedback on how we can keep operators out in the field doing the inspections, doing the repairs, and not on the computer, which I'm kind of hearing that's a lot of times being done. Am I reading into it too much?
So here's my very honest feedback. Prior to SAIM, my lead and supervisor, right after our shift briefing, would have to delegate. He's doing this, she's doing that. By me, by not her, and then they do it, and it's like, oops, I forgot this thing, and now the next shift has to do what the previous shift was supposed to do. So you spend maybe 20, 30 minutes delegating, then they go out there doing the work, and then they would come to the office and spend an hour signing everything they did, unless they took the binder up there, which they may lose, it gets wet, all of the above. With SAIM, honestly, you set it up, it delegates it ahead. Rather, for you to decide whether you want to do it by shift, by person, by whomever. In my case, it's per shift. I don't like to delegate every day. You come in, you know what's doing your shift. If you need help, I'll support you, right? And then they go out there, they scan everything, they come back, and there's nothing to sign. And they look at the platform and they make sure that everything was completed. And if they missed a thing or two, then they go back. So just the opposite. Actually, in my case, it saves time. It makes us more efficient.
Yeah, in our case, they don't, outside of using it to double check on overdue tasks or potentially overdue tasks or things like that, our operators tend to not spend much time on the website platform as much as they do with the SAIM Inspect app, which is what they utilize more to make sure that, oh, hey, I did miss something. Hey, this, that. So the way they interact with spending time on a computer in regards to that outside of the normal paperwork is very minimal.
I think the heaviest burden is actually just getting your facility set up. That's all the back end work. Once you get that ironed out, then you just literally give the operator the tablet, and they just go about their day inspecting things. They don't have to log into the computer or anything. That's all done on the back end.
Okay, one more in the back, and then we got to wrap it up.
Yeah, let's say I was distracted when I was at work, enter wrong input. How long before I lose control of fixing that? So if, like, probably I remember tomorrow or yesterday I made a mistake, do I still have the power to change that input, or it has to go to a higher?
You talk about, like, if you're the operator?
Yes.
Then yeah, it would have to go to someone on the back end that can go and pull it again to either edit or add another comment to whatever that you needed to finish.
All right, thank you.
But it's permission based. So lead operator or facility admin is able to.
All right, thank you.
All right. Well, that is all. Thank you to our panelists for your time, and thank you all for the very good questions. I think they'll move them. We got